Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Roy Kennedy.
I'm Chris Yee.
And I'm Mike DeLisio.
Today we're taking a look at a game that we were pretty excited when we heard about it, called The Initiative. And this is from Unexpected Games, which is a new studio fronted by Corey Konieczka, who I think he was one of your favorite designers, probably.
Oh yeah, this was on my most anticipated of the year list as well.
That's because Corey Konieczka was the head designer of Fantasy Flight Games for a while, and many of the games that you like from them he did. Now he wants to go off and do his own thing. This is kind of a experimental type thing. It's something new, I would argue.
I would agree, yes.
It is a game that actually has a bit of spoilers in it. So I'm going to do my best. We're going to do our best to avoid that. But in essence, this is a game where you're solving puzzles. So don't worry, I'm not going to spoil any of that for you, and then things will happen. Let me show you. Game, you're going to be playing through a campaign, and it will tell you, for example, here it tells you in chapter 1, read page 1, after the mission, read page 17. And it will tell you what to do for each mission. You mark if you won or lost, different things might happen. And there are 14 different chapters in the game. There's also rules inside, post-campaign rules. You'll be able to see more things. There's a lot more missions included that you'll be able to play. I want to say there's 16 extra missions that you'll be able to play. When you go through a mission, and this is a demo mission, as very obviously pointed out here, you're going to set folders up in a room according to the map. It will show you which side of the board to use, and you're going to randomly shuffle these folders and put them. There's a yellow door. That's where your characters are going to start. Each player is going to have a character. That character will have a special ability. We'll talk more about these later. Players are also going to have some cards that they'll be drawing from a deck. These cards are numbered from 1 to 12 in 3 different suits, red, yellow, and purple. At various points in the game, it might tell you to reveal a secret, in which case you'll go through to the different secret cards and reveal that secret card, which might give you a rule, might give you a puzzle, might give you a clue. But what's most important is the mission itself. You're going to stick into this device and flip it over, and you're trying to figure out something. Here you're trying to find out the key phrase. This one here says there's 2 number sequences below. What numbers are in these 2 glyphs? And as soon as you can figure out the answer, so here I need to figure out this key phrase. As soon as I figure out the answer for this, you can say, we know the answer, and you reveal it. If you're correct, you win. If you're incorrect, you lose. That's it. You can determine when you win or lose in this game. On a player's turn, they're going to take 1 or 2 actions. When you take an action, you're going to take a card from your hand and stick it underneath Gather, Intel, Run, or Regroup. There's different piles here. But the rule is you can never place a card that is lower than a card that's already out there. Each card has to be higher than the last one. So playing an 8 there means, let's say the next person to take action does a 10, the next person to put that action does a 12, we're kind of stuck. The color does not matter at this point in time. Each of these actions is going to let you do different things. This lets you collect 2 clue tokens in the room you're in. Intel lets you pick a room and you reveal up to 2 tokens in it. Run lets you move up to 3 rooms. So these are the 3 main actions you'll use. But you also have Regroup. And if you put a card there, you can choose any other action and discard all the resource cards and tokens on it. All those cards will then go into the discard pile. Each player can also discard 2 cards straight to the discard pile to do their special action. Choose 3 nearby rooms, reveal a clue token in each, move yourself another player up to 5 rooms, collect a clue token from your room and an adjacent room, or use an ability even if you can't normally do that. When the draw pile runs out, it's not a very big draw pile, you draw cards at the end of your turn, you'll reshuffle the discard pile in the draw pile, but you're adding all these time cards. And the discard pile turns over, and now whenever you draw a time card, you have to reveal it. And if there's 3 time cards, and this one counts as 2, the game immediately ends and you lose. So you want to solve it before then. Now you're revealing these clue tokens in different rooms and gathering them. Sometimes when you reveal a clue token, it's something bad. What this does is it puts it on that action. This is intel. It's bad intel. You'll put it on top of that, and you can't take that action until you've cleared that token off. So there's going to be bad things like that as you reveal these. Many of them are going to be glyphs, but sometimes they cause damage to you, or not damage per se, but it makes you lose a random card when there's gas. There's security cameras in some rooms. Let me see if we find a security camera. And if you end your turn there, you have to discard a card. And discarding cards isn't good. But as you find clue tokens, if you find a clue token that matches a symbol here, which this one does not, but this one does. I found this clue token. I'll reveal that. That is now an H. And if I find, if I found that clue token, I would be able to reveal 2 letters. Now, at some point, you might be able to guess what the word is from the amount of letters. And again, you can go for that. You can guess anytime you want. Sometimes the word might be scrambled, and there's all kinds of weird, funky things that they do. But eventually you'll say, I know the key phrase is this. You'll have a few letters. What is it? And you reveal it and look. And I won't even spoil this, even though it's a demo. But maybe you can guess it just from these letters. There's also going to be in the game, there's lots of secret cards that are numbered, I mentioned, and you'll get those, which are going to help you. You'll get codes that are printed in things. There might even be codes in the rule book or in the clue book. You might find things because when you read the first opening page, it's a cartoon. This isn't really spoiling anything. You come through here and you find a game, but there might have been a clue somewhere in these pictures too, so you got to be careful for that. That's pretty much how it plays. There's going to be other rules and other things that are added. They don't change the game they do change the game to some degree, but you're still trying to solve something in this thing, whether it's a key phrase or a sequence of numbers. And then things will change, and you'll eventually beat or lose the campaign, and then you can go on and play a lot of the different post-campaign stuff. Okay, so let's talk about the quality of the game before we get into the gameplay itself. The game, like I said, comes with this comic book and the art. What did you all think of that?
I thought the art itself was good, and it was kind of interesting as far as like the story and stuff goes. But overall, like the story was, I'm not sure how strongly I felt the story as we were going along. It felt slightly disjointed to me, especially since like a lot of times you were reading a teeny bit of story and then stopping and playing a game, and a teeny bit of story and stopping and playing a game. So I would not call this a storytelling game at all.
No. There were a couple of tonal issues that I had, as silly as that sounds. Like, at certain times it was very, very silly, the comic, and then other times it was almost maybe a little dark.
Well, that's the vibe nowadays, though. That's how Stranger Things works, right?
That's
Stranger
true.
Things
That
is
is
silly,
true.
then super dark.
And I think this is kind of going for that kind of a nostalgic Stranger Things feel. Wouldn't you agree that it kind of has that kind of a feel to it? So, but the art, I think, is fine. I like the art, and generally the components, I think, are okay. I don't know if you talked about that in the overview.
I did, and I will get to that in a second.
Okay.
It's interesting. So when you look at the cover, when you look at the sides of the box, there's like these very cartoony-looking kids, and then there's these like very almost noir kind of
pulp magazine style.
type. And so you're pretty much playing a game about kids playing a game. So there's kind of these alter ego things going on, and I liked that. Kind of like that contrast of in the game, within the game, there's I'm super cool detective man or whatever, and it kind of carried over to like powers that each of these like normal little teenage kids playing this game had. And so I don't know, I like the art, I like the strangeness of it, but there were moments, I think disjointed is maybe a good word for it, where it was a little bit distracting.
And I feel that, I don't think they could put more pages in this without it getting really expensive.
Sure.
But yeah, the cartoon felt like, I almost wanted there to be a QR code that said, read more of the story online.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm also not sure, theme-wise, exactly who the game is for, because, it's obviously geared towards kids, I think. This is not the kind of story that, doesn't it feel like a kid's story?
I wasn't on the edge of my seat. Yeah.
Oh, sure, I get that.
Yeah.
Now, the component you were talking about is that main focus of the game, that little flip-up thing.
Yes.
That's the main
The
component.
centerpiece. Should be the centerpiece
It should
component.
be the best component, and I had a lot of problems with that. First of all, I had to break it open to get the cards
Get the mission
in.
cards in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even then, they don't fit well.
And it's also problematic in that you're only supposed to look at one side of the card. And if you're having to manipulate this thing, and you have to be careful not to look at the back, because it can really just ruin an entire mission.
We were really scared when we first started. It's like, do we start with them all up or do we start down? So we had to like make sure to triple read the rules and be like, okay, they all start down, and then like I got to get the card in there. And like you said, I had to like pry it open a little bit and pop it so that way I could actually even shove the card in. And then I was still kind of worried about damaging the card a little bit as I was shoving it in there.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that fake, that red stuff where you can't see it unless you're wearing the glasses.
Yeah.
That almost might have helped here in that regard.
Sure, I can see that. Although, again, I think they were going for kind of the centerpiece component. It just didn't quite
even those
live
doors, I'm sitting there like,
they can
make
pop
sure I
off
only
very
want to pull up one door. Well, they give you a couple extra.
They do, yeah.
It felt like a super cheap like Hasbro Guess Who to me.
It really did.
And I just felt like it wasn't as quality as it could have been.
Yeah, I agree.
It reminded me of playing Wheel of Fortune, the board game. When I was younger, and you like try to pop open the little panels and stuff, which in some ways makes it a good centerpiece component, but also just the quality of it could have been better.
Tiles, rule book, cards, all very good quality. So it's not like it's bad in that regard.
No, I have an issue with one other component, but I don't feel like I can really discuss it here because it ventures into spoiler territory. So I would say just generally, it's a mixed bag on components for me.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, so spoilers, not that we're giving spoilers, but there are things that happen. There is like I said in the overview, there's a 14-chapter campaign that you win or lose, and over that campaign, things happen. This game definitely is borrowing from the escape room genre.
Oh, for sure.
Very much.
To the point where there's at one point where I was like, yep, seen that before.
Yeah.
They did do something I've never seen before, but I also didn't find it to be tremendously sneaky. Think if 3 kids come knock on my door in a trench coat and they're pretending to be an adult. Is that a good analogy?
That's probably a very good analogy, yes. Yeah.
If that makes no sense to you, fine. I haven't spoiled anything, but you'll see. The game is two things. It's the cryptograms and discovery. In fact, cryptograms are barely in gaming at all.
Correct. Yeah.
They're a little bit in escape room games, but my kids, for example, had never even done anything with a cryptogram. I played my game with my kids. These guys played together.
Yes.
So that's like one part of the game. Then the other part is a card management game where it's like almost like Lost Cities,
Cooperative
essentially.
Lost Cities, yeah.
So what did you all think about that combo?
Okay, so to me, the center point of the game are those cryptograms. Okay, to me, that's what the game is really about. It's about solving a series of those and then how they link into the story. But getting there takes longer than actually solving the puzzles. Getting there meaning using the board, going around finding clues, which is that kind of Lost Cities mechanic. I don't feel like that was very compelling. I felt like there were a couple of times you can make some decisions, but for the most part, it's pretty obvious what you're going to try to do. There were not a lot of times where we're sitting there puzzling over, well, what we were trying to do was be more efficient. I don't ever feel like we were really worried about getting the clues we needed.
Right. So here's an example of that without spoiling anything is you can look at any 2 clues on the board. Which 2 clues do you pick? No, it doesn't matter.
Right. It's really random.
You just hope that they're good ones.
Right.
It could matter slightly a bit more when they add more game mechanisms, slightly. But at the end of the day, it's like draw 2 cards from a deck.
Right. And so I was a little bit thrown off by the fact that you're spending more of your time on the less compelling part of the game, by far, to me, to get to the good stuff. That's how I felt.
And there's interesting parts in the game too where you're kind of on a little bit of a time limit, and sometimes you get really lucky and find all the good clues you need and maybe beat the round in 2 turns, sort of thing.
We did.
Which we did once, which was actually pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But also you could just get extremely unlucky and never find the right things and have the cards come out in the wrong order and lock everything up, and you're not able to unlock it properly. And it just doesn't feel like conjoined together with really what you want to be doing is trying to solve those clues and figure that stuff out. And playing this stuff is kind of like, to me, it just kind of felt like it was getting in the way of the fun part of solving the clues.
Right.
I wanted to play more of the escape room stuff and the uncovering stuff, and maybe even getting back to what's happening in the story and stuff like that. But then we were playing this game, it's just like, okay, I have a low card. It was just, who has low cards? Play the low card. That's it. That's the whole game.
And as a side note, this game has one of the in my top 10 most annoying rules in the world, where you're not allowed to say what you have in your hand. You can only allude to it, and it's kind of like,
right.
Just say you have a 1.
I think I enjoyed the card play part of it the most out of everyone here. It was fun. I enjoyed myself, and I think that what it felt more like was it was almost all the way there. It was almost a compelling game, but even that was kind of fun, right? Which tiles do you flip over on the map if you do that action? Well, there's, each of us has a different player power depending on our character, and I'm better at grabbing tiles from different rooms, and someone's better at moving across the map quickly. So there's a little bit of that discussion.
Right.
So I enjoyed that part. I thought that part was fun, but it did get in the way of what was ultimately the more fun part of the game, solving the clue at the end of each mission, or the crypto glyphs. I forgot what you called them. The
Cryptograms.
Yeah.
Another thing that I thought was interesting was the fact that I was playing a character that was really good at moving, which was good early in a round. But like later on, I'm like, my power's not that good. These guys have better powers. And at a certain point, you're allowed to just skip your turn. And sometimes I'm like, maybe I should just not do
No, you always have
anything.
to take 1 action.
Well, I would do like a thing, and then I would not do much after that. So I felt like at a certain point, it's like it behooves me to not draw cards up and to not be doing as much stuff as I could,
Right.
just so that way we could be more efficient. And we were just trying to work on being efficient together, and that was interesting. But overall, as a whole, I didn't feel like it was super interesting.
But
or
I think that people who are going to like this are the ones who enjoy the little bit of card play because it breaks up the tension of doing like an escape room in 1 hour, right? Because I'll be honest, I loved those games when they came out, but I haven't played as many recently because I don't know if I want to just sit down for an hour straight and just let's try and solve everything in one sitting. So I think that this breaks it up a little bit, and I think it will have certain fans, but all of us did kind of feel like
That's actually
kind of got in the way.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. My other to pile on a little bit with these guys though is the game is going to introduce more stuff as you go along.
Right.
Right.
It introduces more stuff both with the clues, the crypto part of it, the code breaking part, and with the mechanisms. The code breaking stuff, every time they added something new, I was like, ooh, that's neat.
Right.
Every time they added a new mechanism, I was like, oh man.
Yeah,
this is
it's just an impediment.
all-
I think
right. They
they're-
just did stuff to annoy
It
you.
was just impediments. That's what it was. All the new stuff in that part of the game was making it more difficult for you to get those random clues to get to the good stuff.
Now, I need to be really clear. My kids really like this game. Okay, so maybe that's the best audience for it. They really liked it. And I really liked the clue part. The one thing I liked is the extrapolating the answer from what you have.
Right.
So, like they'll say, solve this. And I was like, well, I know that there's 2 glyphs here. They're the same glyph. That's a double letter.
Right.
A common 3-letter word is the or and or whatever. You use your basic things.
Right.
And then as time goes by, they have unscrambling, and I love the number patterns. I'm a huge number pattern guy. And I found it to be fascinating. And they do some funky stuff with that, which I can't talk about spoiling, but I thought, that's neat. There's some cool things, and you find the secret cards, and if you're a code breaker, you're going to find this all incredibly basic.
Right.
But for my kids who
the
had never
majority
seen it
of people,
before,
yeah.
and even though I've seen most of this before because I read all these books when I was a kid on it, it still was like, yes, I'm going to put this in a game.
Right.
So I want to give them props on that. I almost want to give this game 2 ratings.
I know exactly what you feel like. Yeah.
Like 1 for that one half and 1 for the other half.
And I mean, the game will give you some of those aha moments.
Right.
You'll get to a thing, it's like, oh, this and this goes with this and this and this. And it feels good to get those moments when you're able to uncover everything and solve it together.
Right.
But that was like my favorite part of the game is when we were working together to solve the puzzles. And some of the other stuff that got in the way was slightly different,
Go ahead, sorry.
Almost the comic book, I felt like, too, were kind of these. We forgot to read the end of chapter, the comic book page you read sometimes, because we were like, well, let's just get to the next clue.
Right.
And so almost the comic book kind of got in the way at some points, or at least we forgot to.
Yeah, it's true. And I know we've kind of all been talking about issues we have with the game, but just in anticipation of, giving a final score in a little bit, I do want to talk a little bit about
do
something
that now.
well, okay. I will, but I want to talk about a couple of things that I liked first that maybe will inform my score, okay? I've talked in the past about innovation and how I put a lot of stock into innovation in board game design, and I think this game is extremely innovative.
Yes.
I think it takes risks. I think it takes chances. I think it does. It has a uniqueness. It doesn't feel like any other game exactly that I can think of. It takes parts of escape room games. It takes parts of card management games. It takes parts of little board play games. And in some ways, it almost felt like Horrified, moving around the board, picking up things even.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I think it puts a lot of different disparate elements into one package, and I think that that's hard to pull off. This could have gone off the rails countless times, and I don't feel like it did. You know what I mean? And so I appreciate the risk that it took. And so, are we going to scores at this point?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was in a range here. I'm actually going to land at a 6.5 on this. It's really close. And I applaud the innovation. I applaud the risk taking, and I know they're trying to do something different. I just wish that the biggest part of the game was more compelling to me. So,
yeah, I'm kind of in the same thing with Mike there. Although I'll say my kids probably give it an 8. The story is interesting. It's like a mix of a back to school special with the 3 investigators when I was a kid. To the point where even my kids were making fun of parts of the story because they really kind of leaned hard into the more you know, a little bit. And then in the next scene, and it's a spy thriller.
Right.
It was a little. I was getting some whiplash for parts of that. I didn't like the game at all. The game, the puzzle part I loved.
Right.
I give that an 8.5.
Sure.
That part. The other part I give like a 5. So I got to mix them, and I got to cut 6.5 like Mike. It's there, and again, I will echo what you said. Props for making something unique and different. And the next time we get something from Unexpected Games, I'm right there because this is that. And I think for families, this will work better. This seems like a great game. Even though I wasn't enjoying it as much as my kids, I enjoyed watching them have a lot of fun with it.
Sure.
I had like extremely high expectations for this game going in. Like I was super excited and super pumped to play it, and I wasn't exactly sure what this was going to be. There are elements of the game I definitely enjoy, and like you guys said, I really enjoyed the code breaking and all that stuff and figuring out together as a team. I mean, we had moments in this game where we were like standing up excited by the fact that we were able to solve something so quickly. But that was mostly because we didn't have to play as much of the one part. It's like we skipped the boring part. But for me, I wish it was a little bit more cohesive. I wish the story was a little bit deeper or stronger for me. I think I'm going to give this a 6 overall. I still think it's interesting, and if it appeals to you, check it out. And if you're willing to try out the whole card management part, if that doesn't sound boring to you. But the initiative is a 6 for me.
And for me, I'm going to come in the same with a 6.5. And I think all of us have that same idea that the parts that we really enjoyed personally is one half of the game. The parts that were just okay, that could have maybe been, you know, if these were 2 separate games, each part would have been refined a little bit differently.
Right.
You know, so overall a 6.5. But I think that this might be a case where we're maybe it's being advertised, or it looks like it's more of a gamer's game, and really could be better off as a less of a hardcore gamer's game. If we go into it with certain expectations.
That's true.
Right. Yeah.
We go into it with expectation. Corey Kineska's name on it is huge.
Right.
You know, if you know his backlog of games, you might go into it with the wrong expectation. But if you go into it expecting a simple kind of co-op card game with really fun puzzles, you might like this a lot more than us.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, folks. That's the initiative. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Roy Kennedy.
I'm Chris Yee.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
Have fun breaking codes.